Back on the dirt road. Now we're going to go through WrestleMania logistics like a mark. You see, you're a mark if you orgasm over Japanese wrestling, I heard. It's not that, is it? It's if you orgasm over Japanese wrestling, that means you're heavily into Japanese porn. I think that's what that means. So you're a mark for Japanese porn. Which, Japanese women ain't the most attractive women in the world. Some are. I'm not being racist here. But, I prefer my Latinas and my black girl. I am a mark for women. I am. I have been a mark for women. I admit. And I am a mark for Tupac Shakur kind of thing. So, guess I'm a mark for that. I don't know why I came up with that. Anyway, let's get into the business numbers, because this is very markish from me. They say that the business in WrestleMania 41 business was sincerely up from last year. So the best thing within the WWE organization was the fact that they made more money than ever before. So WrestleMania 41 was a big win-win-win for the WWE. Because last year, the gate was 38.5 million. This year, it was up 45% on venue merchandise from last year's WrestleMania. And last year's WrestleMania was the highest grossing WrestleMania of all time, business-wise and financial-wise and economical-wise. So, yeah. So, they did 38.5 million last year, but the improvements this year, which was bigger than last year, as financially, is they were up plus 45% on venue merchandise, plus up 86% on e-commerce merchandise, up plus 75% on location VIP packages. The VIP packages where you sit with Hogan. You think you're going to suck his dick or have him rub your balls with his caramel mustache. But no, you only see him for 5 minutes, so it must be a quickie. And then he goes. That's the VIP package, the 10 grand one. So that is up 75%. So yeah, of course that could have made lots of fucking money on that. And up 21% on WWE's world attendees. I don't know what that is. And this year they had an extra 28 sponsor partners, which I gotta say, I ain't surprised, motherfucker. Seeing all them fucking sponsors everywhere. It was like a big advertisement show. It had 1.1 billion social media views throughout the weekend. The date of WrestleMania was the 19th of April 2025. It was located NV, does that mean Netflix, at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Loserville, as I like to call it. Bad things happen in Vegas. The tickets sold, and this is the estimate, was 60,151, which got mentioned 63,000 by yours truly, Stone Cold Steve Austin, after he had a couple of Steve Wises and accidentally hit the follow too hard going around the corner, and some stupid damn bitch who was in the way just happened to get run over. Well, hell, you're at a show with Stone Cold Steve Austin, son. Expect to get your ass whooped, especially if you're in the way of my damn fucking ATV. I mean, you can see a camera footage of Austin coming out of the thing. He nearly ran over like the whole fucking staff there. It was fucking hilarious. And then, obviously, them fucking corners, you're going fast round them corners. And I've had plenty of fucking accidents on fucking crosses that I've had, and most of the accident happens as I'm revving it round corners, because you see him thrust the throttle, as he's going round the corner, he thrust it proper hard. Man, that's fucking begging for a crash. That's inevitable he's going to crash. But that woman, basically, you could see that she weren't even, nothing happened to her. She's basically a cash grab. And obviously Nick Khan was there doing damage control. And then Austin was trying to, talk to her, saying, "Oh, it's just an accident. Just doing my jig, having a couple of Steve Wises. God damn, I didn't understand. I never damn crashed an ATV before. It's because that son of a bitch throw was too damn fast." Because Austin is a race car driver now, and he's actually won a race. So, something had to be wrong with that quad bike. And probably because it was WrestleMania, he had a couple of Steve Wises. And that was the most entertaining thing of the whole weekend, as well as Bret the Hitman Hart rolling his eyes at Triple H, as Triple H is coming out thinking he's the god of all fucking wrestling, he's the king of kings, look at me, I'm center stage. Austin and Bret are just afterthoughts. I mean, come on. Triple H, as good as he is nowhere near on a level of Bret the Hitman Hart or Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's all I got to say about that. And Bret, basically, with his eye movement, showed the world what he still thinks about Triple H. And Austin did, because you see Austin whispering to Bret before saying, "This guy's full of shit, man. I should just pick that stupid Greenwich bluebird son of a bitch's ass up, this time 80 feet in a damn forklift, and drop his ass to death." Because Triple H had Stone Cold Steve Austin run over. Just a little trivia for you. Anyway, Netflix, they estimated 2.1 million views. That's not very good, because the first Netflix Raw had over 5 million views. So that's not very good for Netflix. I mean, most of the shows I know the Charles Manson show had over 20 million views. The bullshit conspiracy about Manson being a CIA thing. Just as much bullshit as the Helter Skelter theory. When really Charles Manson murdered his victims, really in my view, because he was in deep with the drug game and he was very jealous that he couldn't make it as a music star. That was the real reason. Anyway, YouTube views. The video titles. CM Punk versus Roman versus Seth got 3.3 million views. That was the highest YouTube view, which was actually the second best match of the whole weekend, the main event of WrestleMania Night 1. I'll get into that. Gunther versus Jey Uso got 1.4 million views. That was the first match of the entire weekend. Every fucking entrance. I had about 2 spliffs why these entrances were happening. Took longer than the matches. And I don't know why people view, why 509,000 people viewed that, they want to go through that torture again, is beyond me. Jade Cargill versus Naomi on YouTube got 508,000 views. Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. I do not want to mention that match ever again. Worst match of all time, and that's all I've got to say about that. Got 3.5 million views. Who the hell would want to go through that torture again? I'd rather spend fucking 3.5 million hours in a fucking cell than watch that fucker again. Stone Cold Steve Austin returns and runs over a dumb, stupid bitch that was too close to the barricade with an ATV. Well, he didn't run over her. He tried scamming money, like a lot of women do today. Anyways, I'm not going to... Yeah, I got 1.1 million views. So that should be second. Every WrestleMania entrance night 2, again, took even longer than night 1. 448,000 views. Right, now we'll do the ratings for WrestleMania. My rating. We'll do night 1, night 2, then overall rating. So night 1, cage match, which is most of the fans. I'm not doing Dave Meltzer. This is compared to most of the fans, which is fair. Was a 5.6. Yeah, night one, I gave it a 5.2 because I thought most of the matches on night one and the crowd was pretty dead. But the triple threat match at the end was definitely a 5-star match. It was, people are saying it's the best triple threat match of all time. No, my favorite triple threat match of all time was Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins versus John Cena at the Royal Rumble. I think it was 2015. Night 2 got rated 5.8. Fucking hell, that is too much. I gave it a dud. I give it a minus fucking 5-star. It was that. No, it was horrible. It doesn't matter. Everything that happened in the main event to me overshadowed any good that happened during that weekend at WrestleMania. So the overall rating, people gave it a very, very generous 5.7. So that's more than WWF Survivor Series 98, I think, in cage match. So I don't know what these cage match fucking fans are on. But come on, man. You're saying it was better than Survivor Series 98? I mean, I don't think you're a real wrestling fan. I think you're more of a fucking mark. You know what a mark is? What the definition of a fucking mark is? Someone who gets scammed, who's easily scammed. You say, basically someone who gets robbed. Oh, yeah, check that mark out there, we'll fucking jack him. Or, Mark who believes wrestling is real, actually real. Yeah, you're a mark. Yeah. I mean, you're not a mark if you like good in ring action, no. I mean, you can like what the fuck you want to like. So Vince Russo, you Yankee cunt, go and fuck yourself. I'm all joking, Vince Russo. You know, all you need to do is make amends and induct Jim Cornette into the Hall of Fame and take a beating with the racket just for all the shit that you've put poor Jim through for the last 20 years. He's still angry at you. That's all I've got to say. So the overall rating, I give it 5.7. I'm going to give it a minus 5. Just because of the main event. I have to. Because the main event was the worst thing that ever happened in wrestling. Worse than any other trash-filled GCW independent crappy show there ever is. That was the worst match ever. And that's all I've got to say about that. I don't want to speak about that match again. Match rating, best to worst on Cage Match, which I kind of agree with most of them. The best match of the whole weekend, which I overwhelmingly agree with, was the triple threat match to start night 2 between Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky. I got a 9.1. I'll give it a 10. That match was fucking great. One of the best women's matches of all time. Definitely the best women's triple threat match of all time. It reminded me of the match between Bayley and Sasha when in NXT. Bianca Belair is such a great athlete. I mean, she looks amazing. And she's such a great athlete. Io Sky. This is what Vince Russo, when I listen to him, I feel like slapping the fucking taste out of his mouth. Like, I don't understand why Jim Cornette wants to murder this guy. Because he's just one of the, he's like Trump. That arrogant New York. Something about them Italian New Yorkers. I know Trump's Swedish. But you know what I mean? Same with that fucking other podcaster that I've listened to, that fucking JD guy from New York. He's a fucking, why, there's just something about Italian New Yorkers that make me sick. Sorry. I don't give a fuck if the mafia's after me or what. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. That's just it. And so, there is, because just saying that Io Sky because he's small and no, she's a great fucking wrestler. And there's nothing better than seeing a Japanese, Chinese motherfucking woman who is pretty sexy, do all this crazy shit. And she was the underdog. No one thought she was going to win. What do you like, Vince Russo? You like fucking surprises, don't you? You don't like being predictable. Well, this weren't predictable. It's a great fucking match. You fucking Yankee cunt. Sorry, man. When I think about certain things, I just... Anyway. Yeah, Io Sky, definitely should have won this match. I'm glad that she did. She's a great wrestler, and I like what she does. I like Rhea Ripley. She's got a bit stale recently, but she's, over the past year, she's probably, along with Bianca, in my opinion, and Liv Morgan, she's been the strongest woman wrestler in a women's division that fucking sucks cock. Even though I'd love Rhea Ripley to suck mine and be on top of me. And Buddy Matthews, I'll fuck your ass up if you want to do shit. Because I don't give a fuck. If you can beat my ass up, I'll get an axe and put it through your fucking skull, bitch. Anyway, right. So that was the best match. I give that a 10. The other triple threat match was Seth Rollins versus CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. It got an 8.7. I gave it an 8.5. The reason why I gave it an 8.5, I would have given it a 10, but it was because of the ending was quite predictable. I knew that Paul Heyman was going to go with Seth. I just knew. And just a nitpick. I don't like being over analytical, but I am going to be a bit analytical on this. It's just, when Paul Heyman turned on CM Punk, you saw it coming for a mile away. And then when he did it in Roman Reigns, you could obviously see, the amount of time he took looking at the fans, then looking at Roman to do the low blow. I just saw it coming. I knew it was going to happen, and I knew he was going to turn with Seth. I knew that before. I didn't know it, but that's what I thought was going to happen. I didn't know, obviously, but I thought before WrestleMania that because of what Seth said that, you owe me a favor. And then it just became obvious that Paul Heyman was going to turn on Punk and Roman to go with Seth, in my opinion. But the match was great. How they did it, and they didn't do the typical triple threat shit that most people do, where they get rid of one wrestler and then they fight it out in the ring, and then the wrestler comes back in and then they get rid of the other wrestler, and then the two fight it out in the ring, which you usually do in a triple threat match. The only way where you usually make triple threat matches work. But this was done really well because actually all three of them were fighting at the same time. But they did it in such a way where they're going through the crowds and, different stuff where they had weapons and they were putting each other through tables. They did that, but they did it in such a way where it weren't a clusterfuck as other triple threat matches have been when you don't get rid of one guy when they have all three trying to get the shit in, you know what I mean? So it's a great match. If it weren't for the ending, and it weren't for the predictability and the lack of storytelling to lead up to the match, I would give it a 10. But I have to give it an 8.5. Finn Balor versus Dominic versus Penta versus Bron Breakker. I wouldn't give that the third best match. My third best match would be Jacob Fatu versus LA Knight. But I'll go with cage match. Dominic Mysterio won. To be honest, I wish this match was a singles match between Penta and Bron Breakker. Yeah. I don't think Finn or Dominic needed to be in this match. I mean, it's good. I'm a fan of Dominic Mysterio. I think he's funny. He gets the right type of heat, not the fucking Cody Rhodes heat or the Travis Scott heat. That fuck off heat. I want you to go away and fucking die slow heat. I mean, the funny. Yeah, you fucking don't like him, but in the back of your mind, you find this guy's fucking hilarious. I mean, come on, man. The guy is G'd up to the fucking gills. Triple OG. How old is he? No, he's double OG, isn't he? He's 27. Okay, I'll say double OG. Yeah. He's been through the system. He knows a lot of bad people. He knows a lot of the cartels. He knows a lot of the Mexican mafia, Latin kings, all that. Dominic handled himself well. And that entrance at WrestleMania 39 was one of the best WrestleMania entrances of all time, in my opinion. It got a 7.8 on Cage Match. I'll give it the same. The next match was fourth best match on the card. It was Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre. I mean, Damian Priest has been a bit stale recently. And Drew, man, is fucking hell, man. What can I say? Why is he not in the main event type of picture is anyone's guess. Because the story he had with Punk, Drew's doing his best work last year. I think he's doing his best work. And he's a top guy. He's got the look, he's got the attitude, he's got the characteristics, he's got the charisma, he's got the wrestling skills. The shit that he does is believable in a wrestling sense, How he hits you, his facial expressions, they're all believable. He's a believable, wrestler. Very rare. I mean, I'll just get this out of the way now. The 4 wrestlers that I think will carry the company in the future for the WWE at the moment that are on the roster are Jacob Fatu, number 1, Bron Breakker, number 2, and then you got the 2 kind of half veterans, but not fully veterans, with Gunther and Drew McIntyre. Them the 4 main ones that are going to lead the company, in my opinion. So that got a 7.4. I'd give it an 8.5, that match, because I thought it was a great. It was a lot different from any other match because it was a no-holds-barred match. It was the only no-holds-barred match on WrestleMania, even though the triple threat match was that's always a no DQ match. But you know what I'm saying? They had table spots, kendo stick spots, and stuff like that. Jacob Fatu versus LA Knight. This got the crowd alive in night 1 because the crowd in night 1 was dead. And then it picked up because of this match, because Jacob Fatu is so over with the crowd right now that they're going to have to turn him babyface soon. Because the crowd, he's like LA Knight. He's similar to LA Knight was 2 years ago. But they've done LA Knight disservice. The problem is with LA Knight now is he's in his 40s. I know age is just a number and shit, which I do agree with wholeheartedly, but still your body does wear out on you, doesn't it? I'm in my 30s and, I don't feel nearly as good as I did in my 20s. I don't. I can't eat the same things that I used to eat. I can't take the same drugs that I used to take. I don't drink at all. So there you go. I mean, all I'm saying is that, but I don't know, man. I'd love to see LA Knight in the main event program, and I hope he does. Same with CM. Well, CM Punk was, but for the title, I want to see. Yeah, I do want to see it because LA Knight was a big draw, but Jacob Fatu is in the same position, kind of as LA Knight is in. But Jacob Fatu is so fucking believable as just a fucking badass. A fucking don't fuck me about, don't fuck with Simone. Just fucking G'd up to the fucking gills. You can tell that he's been upstate. He's been up north. Been to the pin. Got motherfuckers to pick up the motherfucking soap and wash his balls, motherfucker. Got all the toilet paper he needed, all the toothpaste he motherfucking needed, all the Christmas crackers he motherfucking needed, because people fucking worked for him. He extorted motherfuckers. If he was in the same jail as P. Diddy right now, he'd be a millionaire. It's believable. You just look at his face, man. And I think he's related to Umaga. Because Umaga was brilliant. If he lived, he would have been a top guy. Something about these badass Samoans, man, that are very scary. Jacob Fatu represents that. He's like the second coming of Haku. But he's got personality and he's great in ring. Not saying Haku wasn't, but he could be. I think Jacob Fatu could main event next year's WrestleMania against Roman Reigns for the Ulafala. It got a 7.1. I'll give it an 8.7. I gave it. I love this match. Even though it weren't very long, they got all the shit they needed to get in. And the pace of the match, the crowd reaction to the match was great. The sixth best match on the card was Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton. No. This was one of the worst matches in the crowd. You know, for what they built up and made the fans believe it was a shoot kind of thing leading up. And then I knew it weren't. I knew it was a fucking work. But it was a work gone a bit wrong. They fucked up the lines kind of thing. So they kind of went into this shoot thing without it being a Brett and Shawn thing where they fought backstage afterwards. They probably went up to each other backstage afterwards and like, oh, sorry, I forgot the line, so I just went to plan B where I just shoot it off the cuff. You know, that type of shit. I got a 6.3. I'll give it a 3.1. And that's being generous because the many spots they missed in this match, the lack of communication between the two. No, it weren't a good match. Sorry. The seventh match, El Grande versus Rey Fenix. El Grande is one of the most entertaining things on WWE at the moment. It was supposed to be El Grande versus Rey Mysterio, but unfortunately Rey Mysterio got injured, so they got Rey Fenix. I think he was one half of the Lucha Brothers. And I used to watch Rey Fenix and Penta a lot in Lucha Underground. I was a big fan of Lucha Underground, so I'm a fan of Rey Fenix. Sorry, Vince Russo. You know, just because I like luchadors and great matches doesn't mean I'm oblivious to character development and storylines and I obsess over fucking matches 24/7. You fucking Mark moron. Sorry, Vince Russo just pisses me off. I mean, I'll slap the shit out of the guy, man. I would literally, 2 hands behind my back, I would beat the crap out of him, even if he was in his 30s and 20s. Believe me. He's never been in a fight in his life, just like Cornette says. He's an arrogant prick. And I agree with a lot of his saying, but he looks down on people. And he's a fucking mark himself, man. He's probably the biggest fucking mark there is, you know. And the point is, why wrestling is the way it is today is kind of, you know, Vince Russo, kind of, with the overexposure in the Attitude Era and the overbooking that he did. And that's why people want these high spots and all these crazy shit. Because he went too fast. And people are putting that in today's wrestling. So, if you fucking hate it so much, man, why the fuck do you watch? I mean, I don't watch. You know, I don't. I mean, I'll have to, but I'm not going to watch all the fucking show. You know? I'm only going to 100, and I might not even get there, depends, because I've got my book to write. But don't fucking say that every fan is like they are. You know, and disrespect people that have, you know, if I was a Jim Cornette who's lived and died for this business, who's actually ran a company, who's actually been there during the toughest days of wrestling, you know, back in the territory days, it was the best thing on TV in 1984 when all the territories were booming and it had the biggest, you know, WWF were doing its thing. Jim Cornette, Mid-South was the best promotion there, and Cornette was just starting out and shined. You never shined like Jim Cornette. So I'm a Cornette guy all the way. Fuck you, Vince Russo. Go on, Cornette. Kill the bastard. Piss on his grave when he dies. Anyway. So that got a 6.3, did El Grande versus Rey Fenix. The same type of match as Fatu and LA Knight. The crowd was into this. And they did what they set out to do. I'd prefer to see Rey Mysterio. Because that was what the story was built around. But obviously, due to uncontrollable reasons, which happens every day in life, things don't go to plan. It's okay. So they got Rey Fenix instead. It got a 6.3. I'll go with 6.3 as well. But it was a good match for what it was. Jade Cargill versus Naomi. Got a 5.8. I'll give it a 6. And this is why, because I thought Naomi was brilliant in this match. The way that she carried Jade Cargill. I'm nothing against Jade Cargill. I just think that she hesitated a bit in this match. You know, a lot of times she stalled. And she seemed to not know what she was doing. or seemed to be overthinking. It kind of came across like she was overthinking, you know, when most good in-ring workers, it comes second nature. It's like she was thinking of the moves before, you know. And if you ever do that in a boxing match or in a fucking real fight or an MMA fight, you're getting knocked out, you know. And you know, this is live television, you know, where you can't be stalling, you can't be second thinking. You've got to be in the moment. You didn't seem like to be in the state, you know, in that flow state or in the you know, in the present moment so much. And Naomi really did well of carrying her through this match, you know, making it so Jade could get her moves across without looking really bad. And you know, when Jade was stalling and kind of, you know, just not in the moment, Naomi was carrying it. Naomi saw that Naomi picked up on the fact that Jade, I wouldn't say it's Jade, she may be nervous. I think it's her second WrestleMania, but she's been off. You know, I don't know how old she is, but, you know, I don't know how long she's been in the business, but, you know, this night, she looked very green. And that's no disrespect because I like the look of Jade Cargill. I like her character, you know, and they could do good things with her. You know, it's just going to take a bit. But Naomi definitely carried Jade through this match. She did brilliant. Naomi's so underrated. And I do like her new character as well. It shows that she can be a wrestling character. Naomi's not a wrestling fan. She didn't grow up as a wrestling fan. You know, and she isn't a wrestling fan. But she knows how to work. So this got a 5.8. I gave it a 6.6 because of Naomi's work. Becky and Lyra versus Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. I mean, this match what it was. Obviously, you know what happened. Any wrestling fan who follows wrestling knows that Becky turned heel after this. I don't know whether the crowd are going to take Becky as a heel just like Cena as a heel, really. You know, they didn't. I remember doing that heel run where she turned on, what was it, Bianca Belair or something. She came back and beat Bianca in about 20 seconds, and then the whole fucking wrestling internet community went crazy. Then she had to turn heel, and that run wasn't very good with a whole look and everything. Anyway, that got a 5.1. I'll give that a 3. I just weren't into this match. New Day versus the War Raiders. That's the best they could come up with for a tag match. Sorry, but the New Day are way past their expiry date. They need throwing in the trash. The War Raiders, don't know the mid. You know, they don't stick out to me. So they got a 4.5 on Cage Match. I'll give it a fucking 2.5. Jey Uso versus Gunther. I don't know why they're so far down. Got a 4.4 on Cage Match. I mean, this started off night one. It weren't a bad match. I mean, the crowd were, you know, the Jey Uso fans definitely were happy. I mean, Jey Uso, people say that he's a bad in-ring worker. Like, he's a bit slow and not very agile. But he was. Years ago, when he tagged with fucking, you know, when he was part of the Usos, he was a great worker in the ring. I remember watching some of his matches, and they were great. They were better workers than the New Day were, the Usos, in my opinion. It's just since the whole bloodline thing, I think Jay's focusing too much on his character. A bit too much. And kind of like going away from the in-ring stuff that you know he can do. But because of his conditioning, you can see he's probably put on a bit of weight and like that. He's more into, you know, character development, which is getting a bit flat, to be honest, this whole yeet thing and coming through the crowd. And by the time he gets to the ring, it's just like the fucking Ultimate Warrior when he ran down and shook the fucking ropes. He's fucking blown up. And you can see that in his recent promos. Like, he comes down, goes crazy with the fans, like the Ultimate fucking Warrior did, and then by the time he gets to the ring, he's fucking blown the fuck up. But, yeah. But it was a decent match, and I liked the way Jay won. With the submission. I thought it was a decent match. Cage match gave it a 4.4. I gave it a 6.8. I thought, it was a decent match to start off the show and to get the crowd in the mood. The third to worst match on the show was Logan Paul versus AJ. Yeah, this was a turning point, I think, of night two. Night two started off with a bang, with that triple threat match, followed by the Priest versus McIntyre, followed by the fatal four-way match. But then, as soon as Logan Paul and AJ came, the crowd went flat. I mean, the work in the ring, I can't really remember what they did, but, the crowd was just flat. And that kind of set the tone for the rest of the night. Then you have Randy Orton versus Joe Hendry. I'm not being ignorant, but I have never heard of Joe Hendry. Obviously, I don't watch TNA. I've only watched TNA about 4 or 5 times in my life. The great match that Kurt Angle had with Samoa Joe, I think it was in 06. But no, I've never really watched TNA and not had time, or I never liked the ring setup. But yeah, WWE's bought TNA and da. Fucking Joe Hendry's like this big fucking star there, so a lot of the crowd were really happy to see him, but I didn't know who he was. That's just me. I didn't know who he was. But Randy Orton, is on John Cena's level, in my opinion. He's from that era. Him, Brock, Batista, John Cena, OVW era. And obviously Randy Orton is like 100 times better in ring worker than John Cena is. And his character is nearly as good as Cena's. So he plays a fucking great heel, and he looks better than ever, does Randy Orton. He actually does look like a scary. I wouldn't want to fuck with Randy Orton. I wouldn't like to see that motherfucking jacked up big motherfucker, because I didn't realise he was that big. Because he came from an era where there was loads of big guys, so he didn't really stand out. But to today's wrestlers, he really does stand out, his physique and everything. Randy basically buried, not Randy, obviously. Actually, Randy Orton went to a fan, I heard, and was like, "You paid 30 grand for that ticket. That's fucking bullshit, that." I mean, Randy Orton actually, and doesn't kiss ass and shit. Because he actually came out after the Vince scandal and said, man, that's fucking off. That is out of order. If that, what Vince did. I mean, compared to other wrestlers, which I get, like Cena and Mick Foley and stuff. I get it. Vince has gave him the livelihood, and I'd probably be the same way. So I get where they're coming from. I'm not knocking them for that. Because Vince made the livelihoods, and if he did that for me, I kind of, it's like a father figure, it's very hard, really, I've been there myself, I had a family member that was, a bit of a criminal, did some dodgy shit, but, I just don't look at him as being a bad person, you know what I mean, even though everyone else outside does. It's difficult. It is. And I'm not going to mention the match, but it's the worst match ever. You know what match I'm talking about. So there you go. That was WrestleMania. The worst WrestleMania of all time. So, recent news. I'll save the Sabu thing because it's big news, and I've read his book, and I just want a few things that people might not know about Sabu, and especially about his uncle, who was the king of kayfabe, Ed Farrat. Which, if you called him by that, he would probably stick a fork right through your head and set you on fire. And Sabu was the most extreme wrestler ever, so I'll get into that in the next segment. I was going to review Backlash and Raw this week. You know, it's because I've not been doing it for a month. And I've, anyway, we'll get through some news. So, alright, first news is Dana White says in a UFC press conference, because he was there at WrestleMania, he got booed heavily at WrestleMania. Publicly, he says that he's not a fan of wrestling and of WWE and doesn't want anything to do with the WWE. And UFC raising ticket prices as well as the WWE because attendance is rapidly going down. So that might be another reason why they're raising ticket prices. And the WWE is looking a lot more like UFC with all that fucking celebrity dick riding shit that's going on. Just like these celebrities, and they're not even proper celebrities. And these days celebrities, I mean, you might think I'm sounding like an old, grumpy, miserable bastard, but it's just evident, isn't it, that there's no larger-than-life celebrities like there was back in the day. Today, these guys are just YouTube fucking creators. And the only guy that kind of a celebrity was in there that I was like, hey. One of them was Rick Rubin. He's a Zen master and funded Smoky Mountain and did work with the Temptations and the Supersonics and the Delphonics and did work with Public Enemy and some rap acts, which brings me to Flavor Flav. Yeah, Flavor Flav. I thought, I didn't know Flavor Flav was alive, to be honest. Talking about that, there's a mate that I didn't see in 20 years, and there's been mates that I haven't seen for ages. When I'm back in my crazy days, when I'm doing loads of crazy shit, right? And I understand why they think this way. But a lot of them have come up to me, because I'm not on social media and shit like that. They come up to, like, my brother and other people saying, where's Odgie? He's dead. Is he dead? That's what I've heard, he's dead. And I've had, like, fucking 5 people that I've known from back in who I grew up with but I haven't seen in ages think that I'm fucking dead. It's kind of fucking worrying me a bit. It's like, is there a plot out on me? Something I don't fucking know about here. I mean, no, I'm not dead. I'm alive. Anyway, there was a show being filmed by Braun Strowman, who's recently been released from WWE, where they have the big old boy going across the country eating up every fucking diner and truck cafe there is like a big fat big old pile of pasta hoka turd that he is. Yeah, they actually made a show where Braun Strowman eats like a fucking pig that's overtaken too many steroids. Yeah, but I don't know if that show's coming out. Prices are too high. Really are too high. And right now, people reported it's no longer just, the prices are a bit too high. It's like this is a big kind of big scam being operated. Kind of like OnlyFans, in my opinion. Whatever. I don't give a fuck. As long as they don't scam me, I'll just stay away from the shit. But yeah, they're saying it's worse than whatever Vince McMahon ever did, which I think it is. I mean, yeah, Vince was ruthless. Yeah, he took over the territories and shit like that. But he didn't fuck over the fans very much until, the last year of his life. And that's only because he became demented. Come on. Vince McMahon, it's been reported since he left in 2023, just after WrestleMania 39, I think, after the TKO purchase, that he's not spoken to Stephanie or Triple H because they voted him out of the board, because the big board meeting where people are on the board, Now there's news. This is a conspiracy theory that I don't really believe in. It could be true. I don't fucking know. What? Well, it's not a conspiracy theory because the headline was, "Is The Rock secretly working with Vince McMahon?" I mean, it has been reported that John Cena has been in close contact with Vince McMahon. Yeah, but so is The Undertaker. So, they're close. Cena and Taker owe their lives to Vince McMahon. So, no, I don't knock any of them for being close. That's their business. And there's rumours for John Cena's title reign is him to eventually this supposedly is the plan. I think a source that Mr. Uncle Melter has been got a source within the WWE that's told him this. I think that Cena is basically scheduled to turn face by SummerSlam, and by that time Cody's going to come back as a heel and reclaim the title from Cena at SummerSlam. So they're going to do like a double switch, like an Austin Brett kind of thing. Not in that way. They're going to do. I think they're going to do the double switch leading up to SummerSlam. I'm not sure, but that's the plan, supposedly. What you've heard from Uncle Dave. Obviously, now that it's out there, probably WWE will pivot that and change the plan. Bayley, who's left the WWE, has been taking all the recently released stars out to dinner with her. So Braun Strowman, obviously, which she wouldn't have eaten fuck all if Braun Strowman was out with dinner with her, and all the other motherfuckers that have been released. I don't know much of any of the fucking names. Oh yeah, Shayna Baszler, Ronda Rousey's friend, and quite a few others. CM Punk honors the homicidal, suicidal legend of all legends, Sabu, and announces that this is at Raw. And announces he will be teaming up with Sami Zayn at the upcoming Saturday night main event against my favourite wrestler alongside Jacob Fatu on the WWE roster at the moment, Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins, who have formed a new faction after WrestleMania with Paul Heyman. So, yeah, Saturday night mate coming up in about 2 weeks or something. Yeah. And hear this one out. The TKA groups have cut WWE house shows in half since TKO have taken over. That's what I mean, man. They don't know about wrestling. Don't have no clue. And it shows on TV because they're treating the TV shows like house shows. Because they're not really producing much for TV. Otherwise, the show would have sense to it, which it doesn't. This is no conspiracy. This is true. Vince, The Rock, and Nick Khan each own a third of the TKO stock. Now that is true. So Vince still owns a third of it. So that's why all these conspiracy theories come in. Is Vince McMahon secretly working with The Rock to get back at Triple H for a big takeover? Yeah. Cena is set to face R-Truth at the Saturday night main event, which makes sense because there was a press conference after Backlash because R-Truth actually came into the John Cena Randy Orton match. It was actually a decent match. That I thought it was going to be the shit, that match, but actually it was better than I expected, that match, for what it was. Obviously it was very predictable, but it was a decent enough match, I thought. But yeah, Cena attacked R-Truth at the press conference, and that reminds me of the way press conferences back in the day. They used to have press conferences, but they were all in character. Because I remember WrestleMania 14 press conference with Tyson, Austin, and Michaels. All three of them were in character, except for Mike Tyson, who was Mike Tyson. But you know what I mean? Austin, everyone was in character, and this was a perfect example. That's what I got to commend Cena for, because he stayed in character after the WrestleMania press conference. So I do like that. But then he went on Pat McAfee and basically, was his true, being himself again. But I'm just saying. But this press conference was actually pretty good. It was like MJF's. Reminded me of the MJF one where he came out eating pickles and insulting every fucker that was there. Just keep it kayfabe, man. Obviously, people do not believe it's real, but just, don't break character, man. Especially straight after the event. Just don't do it. And this is a scary one. Rumors are that TKO want to move out from Titan Towers in Connecticut, where the WWE headquarters are, and want to move it to Vegas, where the UFC operates. And that just takes away the tradition of the WWEF. It's basically what Vince did in the 80s. Took away the tradition of real professional wrestling and turned it into a clown gimmick circus show. And that's just my opinion. I mean, it was good though. It worked because no one's ever seen that at the time. That's why it got over so much with the mainstream audience, Other news, last 10 minutes here. Triple H finger pointing conspiracy theory is the finger point of death. I think that's like the finger point of doom when Hulk Hogan gave the finger point of doom to Kevin Nash. That people said was the start of the ending for WCW. What they mean is when he points his finger at people, he screws them about. Yeah, I get the conspiracy there, I suppose. I don't know how much truth there is to it. This news is very interesting. Triple H may know what he's doing and probably no one could realistically book as well as him. It's just the environment that he's in. Like all the fucking agents, all the productions they got to deal with, all the fucking talent. And the biggest problem to many people is that there's too many fucking writers on the creative team and too many sponsors and networks breathing down the throats and all other bullshit. That's why the show is as bad as it is. Which does make sense. But I've got a feeling that The Rock did what he did on purpose. That's just me. Could be wrong, but see, and then Triple H first got his hands in creative, deep in the creative, like became the CEO kind of thing in 2011. And in 2012, he started NXT there and made William Regal and Matt Bloom, who was A-Train, were like the main trainers, I think they still are, at the NXT Performance Center that they set up in Florida. So that is the news. So we're going to get on to Sabu soon. Hopefully I'll review Backlash and Raw this week. Anyway, so I am back. And all I've got to say is, fuck off.